The Harbor District runs south from Bay City's third pier, a mile of narrow streets, chandleries, and men who know when to be invisible. Victor Cray had used every square foot of it, knew which buildings backed onto alley stairs, which alleys connected through to the freight yards, and which men could be trusted to hold something without being told what it was. Kern had given me the address. 6 hours later, Callaway's people had given Kern something he couldn't give back. The question was whether they'd been faster than me, or whether they'd been there first. Eleanor arrived at 8:45. She'd been up since before dawn, and she'd done the kind of research that shows in a person's eyes.
The Wharf Row address is confirmed. I went through my father's property filings last night. A second-floor leasehold above a chandlery held through a subsidiary entity, separate from Callaway's registered freight holdings, but traceable if you know the parent company structure.
Callaway would know the room exists.
He knows my father used it. What he doesn't know is exactly what was in it, or whether everything has been accounted for.
He moved on Kern within 6 hours of my visit. That's not a man who is uncertain about his exposure.
He's certain someone came asking. He's not certain what Kern said. Those are different things.
She sat with her hands in her lap and looked at me the way she'd looked when she first came to the office, measuring what she could trust to say and what she needed to hold back.
I want to go with you to Wharf Row.
No.
I know my father's methods. If something is still in that room, a coded reference, a deliberate gap in the files, you need someone who can read it. It won't announce itself.
Callaway's people may still have eyes on the building.
I understand the risk.
I'll look at the room and call you from the phone box on Kellerman before I do anything else.
The Kellerman box.
Yes.
You'll describe what you see, everything.
Everything. She held my eye for a moment, then stood. She didn't argue. That worried me more than the argument would have.
Whatever he placed there will look ordinary. That was always his method. It won't look like what it is.
I went out the back way. The Plymouth was at the north end of the street. I walked south. I called Bryce from the Kellerman box before I went to Wharf Row. Old habit. The second car, the plate came back to what?
Malone.
Driscoll. Tell me about Driscoll.
Raymond Driscoll, private contractor. Port Authority work for the last 2 years, occasional private security. He's done this kind of job before, Malone. Meridian Street was his work. Coroner filed natural causes. Nobody's contesting it.
How long has he had eyes on my building?
At minimum since Kern. Could be before. I didn't have cause to pull the thread until the second car showed up.
They're still watching, sitting on both ends of the block.
They're deciding how much you know. Right now they think you may have found a name and lost it when Kern died. They don't know what Kern told you.
Which gives me a window.
A small one. Kern was a holder. Passive. You're active. When they get tired of watching and start running the risk calculation, the answer changes.
Understood. Callaway's documented entities, registered office, Bayside warehouse. Is there a fourth address? Something off the registration?
Nothing on file. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It means Callaway was careful about what he put his name on.
That's what I expected.
Malone, whatever's at Wharf Row, if anything is, don't sit in the room. Look and move.
I know.
And call me after, not before.
I went to Wharf Row before the freight yards opened. First light, the streets were quiet and wet. Wharf Row is 3 blocks of working buildings, chandleries, a net repair yard, a cold store that smelled of fish and old salt. The chandlery on the south side was the second building in. Wooden sign, paint faded to gray. Iron stairs running up the exterior to a second-floor landing. Kern had described the stairs exactly. The door at the top was ajar. The room was empty. Not abandoned. Empty. Someone had been through it within the last 24 hours and done it properly. Clean floor, window wiped. No smell of paper or anything that had been stored in quantity. No dust displacement, no scuff marks from anything being moved. Whoever had come before me had taken what they came for and left the room looking like it had never held anything at all. I stood in the middle of it for 2 minutes, checked the window, harbor to the south, checked the boards along the near wall, solid, no access panel, no secondary storage. Whatever Cray had placed here, it was gone. Whether Driscoll had recognized what he was taking was a different question. I went back down the alley stairs and walked 2 blocks north before I flagged a cab. I didn't look at the building again. Carver was in the office when I got back. He had a key. He was reading a morning paper in the visitor's chair, which was an affectation. He'd already read it. Empty.
I know. I had a man at the south end of Wharf Row.
You were watching the building.
We've had surveillance on every location associated with Cray's documented activity since the week Kern died. Wharf Row was on the list.
What did your man see?
Driscoll arrived at 11:47. 2 men. They were inside approximately 40 minutes. They came out with 2 standard briefcases, the kind used to transport bound documents or files. They loaded a vehicle registered to a separate entity from the Plymouth and were gone by 12:35.
Kern's death is recorded at what time?
11:20. Driscoll was already at Wharf Row before the recorded time of Kern's death. The order to move was given before the coroner filed, possibly before Kern died.
They gave the order the moment I confirmed I'd found him.
That's our read. The moment your visit to Meridian Street was reported back, Callaway moved on both the source and the material in the same window, Kern and Wharf Row, simultaneous.
I thought about the precision of that. An hour between Kern and the room, not enough time to deliberate. What did Driscoll take?
We don't know the contents. 2 briefcases from a professionally cleared room suggests organized physical material. Selected, not everything. Which raises the question of whether he took what he came for or what he recognized.
You think there may be material he didn't recognize?
Cray was careful about how things were labeled. If something in that room was coded or held under a misleading identifier, Driscoll would have taken the obvious documents and left the rest.
The room was clean, nothing left.
Which either means Driscoll was thorough or there was nothing left to miss, because the critical material was never there.
A separate copy.
Yes. The registry itself, if Cray built it the way Eleanor describes, would be too valuable to hold in a single location. He would have placed a copy elsewhere, with someone outside the harbor operation, someone Callaway has no record of.
Find that person and we find the copy.
If the copy exists and is intact, yes. Callaway thinks he's contained this. The surveillance on your building is about confirmation, not action. Not yet. He believes the trail ended at Wharf Row.
How long before that calculation changes?
A week. Less if you move in a way he notices. Malone. Right now he doesn't know what you know. That's the only advantage we have. Don't spend it.
I won't.
Find the second location before he figures out it exists.
He left the way he came, through the office, not past Rosie's desk. I made a note of the time. 41 minutes, no interruptions. That was becoming the rhythm of this case. Eleanor arrived at 6. I'd called her from Kellerman at 1. Described the room. She'd been quiet for a long time before she said she was coming in.
It's not gone.
Eleanor.
I know how that sounds. But my father spent 11 years building that registry. He understood that every person in it had a reason to want it destroyed. He did not build a single point of failure.
The isolation structure. Each holder doesn't know the others.
More than isolation, redundancy, an original and at minimum one copy, held separately by different people in different parts of the city. The person with the original doesn't know a copy exists. The person with the copy doesn't know where the original is.
Callaway has what was in the room.
Callaway has what Driscoll took from the room, which may be the original or may be selected material. But the copy, wherever it is untouched. Callaway doesn't know it exists. He can't know because my father would not have told him.
I put down my pen. This was the thought I'd been circling since Carver left. Who held the copy?
Someone outside the harbor operation entirely. Someone with no visible connection to Cray's professional work. Someone who could hold a sealed document and be trusted not to open it, not to ask about it, and not to be found by anyone who came looking.
Kern held material 3 times across 11 years. You're describing the same kind of person, but from a completely different world.
Yes, there's something I remembered today. When I was very young, 9, perhaps 10, my father used a word about a man he'd trusted with something. He said the man was meticulous. He used it the same way he used it about himself, as the highest compliment.
You said there was a courthouse connection.
Not a judge, not a lawyer, a clerk, a man who processed documents, who understood exactly how records moved through the system and who owed my father a long-standing favor. I don't know the nature of the favor. I was too young.
Do you have a name?
No, I would have been too young to remember it even if I'd heard it. But the courthouse, that was specific. My father said it plainly. He wouldn't have said it at all if it weren't true.
Alderman is on the bench. His clerk would have access to sealed filings, documents in transit, anything passing through the court's administrative machinery.
It may not be Alderman's clerk specifically, but someone in that building. Someone who could accept a sealed document, process it into the system without a searchable record, and hold it indefinitely.
A sealed filing that's been sitting untouched for 2 years.
My father was precise. If he placed something there, it's still there. No one has come looking, because no one has known to look.
Thin thread. But thin threads were what this case ran on. Go to the Arden, not the Alderton. The Arden on 4th. Different name at the desk if they ask.
You'll call from Kellerman.
Tomorrow morning early. She gathered her coat and left. I wrote on the notepad. Clerk. Courthouse. Cray. Long-standing favor. And below it, with a line under it, Alderman. The Plymouth was back at 11. Driscoll's car, the second one, came at 11:40 and parked at the far end of the block. They sat there without moving. Let them sit. The registry existed. Carver was sure of it. Eleanor was sure of it. And Callaway's willingness to move the moment Kern was confirmed, cleanly, professionally, inside an hour, was its own kind of evidence. You don't do that kind of work for a document you intend to destroy. You do it for something you intend to use. Victor Cray had built in a copy. He would have. He understood redundancy the way other men understood arithmetic. Something that dangerous, built over 11 years, he would not have left with a single point of failure. The copy was in the courthouse, somewhere in the filing machinery of that building, in a sealed envelope, a closed record, something that nobody had pulled because nobody had a reason to look for it. A meticulous man's favor for a careful man. Callaway thought the trail ended at Wharf Row. He was watching the building at both ends of the street to confirm it. He'd be watching for a while. I wrote the clerk's name as a blank, a line with nothing in it, but the shape was there. Courthouse, sealed filing, 2 years undisturbed. And in the morning I was going to call Bryce and give him the shape and ask him to find the name. The Midnight Files will continue next week, same time, same station. I left the light on. Let them see it from the street. Let them think I was still working through it. I was.